In my last video, I shared with you guys how I unexpectedly left my job. Obviously, since I left my job, I left a good portion of the income that we were making. My husband and I had to make some cuts to our budget. We were already on a pretty strict budget, but today I'm gonna be sharing with you where we cut in our budget and how that's affected us. Hey guys, my name is Adrienne. Welcome back to my channel. If you guys want to see that whole video play out, I will link a card up above for you to watch that. But in this video, we're gonna stick to those budget cuts. So we did have some wiggle room before in our old budget, I guess, even though I just posted that like 2 weeks ago. But we felt like to be comfortable with the money that we were bringing in that we needed to cut about $350 from our budget, which doesn't sound like a ton since our budget was about $6,000 before. But when you have a lot of very fixed expenses like mortgages, car stuff, all those things, it gets harder to find where to cut. So we went from having a budget of about $6,000 to a budget of now about the $5,650 for 2 people. I'll start with what has stayed the same or what we've kept the same in our budget. There's a lot of things that are very fixed in our budget. So the first thing would be our home. So our mortgage is $1,250. That's principal and interest. So our property tax and private mortgage insurance is $540. Our HOA is $250. We allocate about $200 towards maintenance towards the home. We don't have a ton of things to fix, but that's just in case something goes terribly wrong. Our electricity stays roughly the same. I budget about $100, although we usually stay under that. Although with it being colder now, I've been like really careful about when I turn on the heat, but I am an absolute wimp in the cold. Like I cannot like function if it's like below 68. I really cannot. And the last thing within our home is our internet. So our internet is $40 and all those things have stayed the same. The second area of expense that has stayed the same is our medical expenses. So that includes our health insurance, which is about $350, which includes our health insurance and dental, and then our therapy. Our therapy has not changed. We have not touched that budget. That was a conversation that we had after this all happened, that we could cut back on how many times we see our counselors, and that wasn't something that we were comfortable doing at this point. We didn't have to be doing that, so we still spend about $800. All right, moving on to where we did cut. So I'm gonna start with our transportation expenses. All right, so our insurance, which includes our car and our home insurance, because they're grouped together within USAA, our insurance didn't change. It's still $200. We still allocate about $500 towards gas and maintenance to our cars, although now that I'm not driving to my second job, I'm probably not going to be needing as much gas. So, but we'll see. The other location I drive to for my other job is a little bit further away and takes a little bit more gas. So if I'm picking up more hours there, I'm probably going to be using more gas. So it just kind of depends on the month and how much I'm working there. But for the sake of the budget, I didn't change anything. So it's still $500. The last thing within transportation, and the first thing that we did change, was our Uber Metro parking. That's our other transportation expenses. We had budgeted before $50 and I cut that down to $25, which isn't a ton. We don't typically go and hit that $50 mark. On a normal month, we probably maybe pay for parking a couple of times. And then for the most part, if we're going to the airport and we need a ride, we can get a ride from somebody we know. Like for example, Thanksgiving is coming up and we have nobody in town that can drive us, and our flight is out of Reagan, out of DCA, and DCA has a metro, so it's gonna take us a little bit longer. We live pretty close to a metro. It's walking distance. It's a little bit of a walk. We are just going to take the metro. That's just a way we can cut down on our expenses as of right now, since we don't have as much to be like spending on Ubers. That's just one thing that we are doing now just to cut on costs. It takes a little bit of the convenience out of things. So that is all of our transportation costs. So total it was $750, and now we cut it down to $725. So we cut $25 there. The second big category where we cut costs are in our living expenses. So the first thing, which didn't change at all within our living expenses, were our groceries and our home supplies. So we eat well, like we like to eat whole meals with vegetables and good proteins and meats. So that's not something we wanted to cut back on or change in any way. We have changed how we purchase our groceries. Not how we purchase our groceries, but we've gotten a little smarter about how we grocery shop. And so instead of just picking things up on the way home, we've been doing a lot of Aldi shopping and shopping at Costco and Walmart shopping. So just finding better deals, even if it takes a little bit longer to get out there. It's actually, the Aldi is a lot closer for us than most grocery stores. So our date night is the first big cut. We didn't cut our whole budget, but we did cut it from $200 to $100. $200. We also cut our eating out from $200 to $100. So we basically cut those in half, which the reason we felt comfortable cutting those in half is because we don't honestly use those very often, or those are the first things where we would be okay letting go of. Most of that money we tend to save and then use towards a trip somewhere. We don't eat out often. Maybe on occasion we'll go eat Chipotle or something, and I don't know, we've gotten pretty creative with our date nights or just having fun. One of our favorite things we've been doing is at home make your own pizzas. So I've been making dough, and then we have pizza sauce and we make our own pizzas with our own toppings. That's a really fun, cheaper date night that we've been doing. So we've been pretty much avoiding eating out, which for us, we also enjoy not eating out as much just because it's typically a lot healthier for us to be eating at home. The next place that we cut on were I would say this is eating out with friends. So this is a separate budget than eating out with each other, like just with me and Noah, but eating out with other people, like we still prioritize that a lot just because that's fellowship with other people. Well, I didn't cut that much out of it. We went from $115, we cut that to $100. And the only reason I did that is because usually the places we go are like Chipotle or places that the prices of things don't change that much, but that literally just meant like, okay, instead of getting the steak Chipotle, I'm gonna get the chicken Chipotle because it's a couple dollars cheaper every time we go. That adds up. So that was $15 there. We still get to go out and do what we intend to do with that money, which is going and spending time with our friends. We're not getting the steak and instead we're getting the chicken, which is not that big of a deal. So the next two places that we cut are our individual fund monies. So we each before had $250 allocated for each of us to use on whatever we wanted. So for me, that was mostly craft supplies. I would pretty much always spend my money on craft supplies if I could, or anything for fun. We cut both of our fund monies from $250 to $200. So that gave us another $100 from each of us. And then the last thing in our living expenses was our travel. We didn't cut anything from our travel. We still just allocate $200 to that. And that's to be used either that month if we're going on a trip, or if we're planning on going on a trip, that money will go to a trip another month or something, but it's just there to save. I kind of already touched on these topics, but I want to emphasize specifically 3 areas where we were careful not to cut in our budget. So that was our therapy, our groceries, and our recovery dinners. So I think for anybody who is needing to cut their budget or looking to cut back in certain ways, where you feel comfortable cutting your budget is going to be different from me. So for us, it was therapy, groceries, and recovery dinners. For you, it may be your fund monies, or maybe your transportation. It may be something else that you prioritize. And it's okay if you guys prioritize something different than me or something different than the next person. Like, everybody is different. Everybody can allocate whatever money they want towards whatever, as long as they're happy and they're paying all their bills. Anytime that we've had money discussions and we're like, we're short on cash, we always first talk about, all right, what if we cut therapy? And we always come back to the point of just how much like our counseling and our therapy just centers us. And I think we would just not be sane people if we did not have our therapy. We protect that money because we feel like it's a priority for us. Same thing with our groceries. We prioritize eating good, whole, healthy meals. And same with those recovery dinners. We really do prioritize eating out with our friends and people we know. So I did want to emphasize that. I want you guys to comment down below where you would cut in your budget if you were to need to cut in your budget. What areas? Because it's going to be different for everybody, and that's okay. The last thing I wanted to talk about is just how we're doing. Like, obviously it shook us. It shook me for a little while what was going on. But we're doing all right. Like, we're doing all right now. It's been a couple weeks since everything went down, and I do recognize that money is an extremely touchy subject, especially within marriage, but also just with people in general. I think one of the most important things for us when that all happened was coming together and having a conversation and not speaking from our feelings. So if I'm just feeling fearful about financial instability, or if Noah's feeling fearful because of financial instability, and that's what's driving our decisions, or that's what's driving our conversations, we're not going to have a healthy conversation about what we're going to do with our budget. And coming at things objectively has really helped us. Not to say that we haven't had conversations that have just blown up, because I do think the topic of money within marriage is a lot. I believe it is as sensitive as the topic of sex in marriage. I think everyone has just grown up with such different backgrounds with money that it can be just a very touchy subject to talk about, which is why I really like my channel, because I really just want to bring to light the topic of money and just make it normal for people to talk about. As you guys can see from the majority of our budget, a lot of what eats up our budget is our fund monies. That's $500 total for the two of us to have our fund monies. Like, as I said, we've gotten very creative about, we have fun. I told you guys about our pizza nights. We also, our schedules are so different. We get 1, maybe 2 nights together on a good week. I think something else that has also happened that has been really helpful, we are pretty open with our friends about our financial situation, whatever that may be. Like, for example, we were talking to 2 of our friends and we were talking about going out to eat, and they had said, well, we're gonna have to go during happy hour because money is tight right now. And them just being like that open about their financial situation, I think was really helpful and allowed us to be like, yeah, we're also in a hard financial situation, and eating out, or like our expendable money that is our fun money, is limited right now. And that's okay to talk about. I think there's a lot of shame around financial instability, and I think it's also a pretty normal thing, especially in the 20, 30-year-old age. One thing I have been doing since like all of this has happened is, and I've always talked about this on my channel, is how I am on my reselling game. So I'm often going around our house looking for things that we're not using, or just they're not convenient to have, or they're not helpful, and I resell them. So I resell things on Facebook Marketplace, on Mercari, on Poshmark, on eBay. I resell things on all of those sites. Not only does it help to get just an extra couple $100 every month, I've just been a little bit more careful about what material possessions I bring into my life, just because I feel like a lot of times my life is just managing things. I don't want that to be my life. I don't need to have a bunch of nice clothes. I don't need to have a giant closet of stuff. I just need, like, honestly, the 5 outfits that I wear every day. I wear basically the 5 same outfits, and I have an entire closet of clothes that I don't wear, and I don't need all of it. And so that's kind of where I'm at with all of that. Just getting, the way I see it is, if it takes me an hour to take pictures and list and then ship things every week, if I sell like 2 things and I make like $20 per thing, that's $40 that I didn't have before. And it took me, what, an hour to sell it, and I got something out of my house that I didn't need and reduces that clutter. So kind of went off on a tangent right there. I may keep that in, I may keep that out, I don't really know. But that is my video for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like it down below. I will be posting again next week, and I will see you guys then. Bye guys. That didn't make sense. Oh, I lost my train of thought.